Yeah, I think we are on YouTube now. So, yes, okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Worldscope Mundane Astrology discussion. Well, today with me, there's Liz, Louisa, Grace, and Anna. I hope Jolie and Mark will join us soon. But well, one thing, first things, I think everyone noticed that recently, recent drama about the breakup of boyfriends between Trump and Musk. But if you want to hear that today, we cover that today, you are going to disappoint it because in UK, we are used to it. We have it every day. We call it East Ender. So, that is kind of daily routine for us. So we are not surprised by that. And also, I think we did cover it when in January, when the election result comes out, and after that, Elon Musk kind of marry Trump in the White House, like very excited. We already kind of are thinking they are not going to last long. And I remember we talking about something like 4 months to 6 months time. That would be something change according to their transit, and that would be very interesting. But I think today we'll more or less will talk about how could we avoid that interesting gossip. But today's program, I think we will start with Liz. Liz going to mention about the Jupiter ingress. That is so interesting. And then quite important aspect that Mars square Uranus is coming up. So Anna will give us some presentation, and Grace will bring about the Uranus in Gemini and how is the impact to China. Oh, Mark is here. So Mark is going to talk about even more interesting about the UK Reform Party, the right wing. I don't know, some people, because when people mention about the far right, and some people will correct you, no, they are just right. They are not far right. I don't know. Maybe this word is already right enough, so they are not really right. Okay. Hi, Mark. So should I invite Liz to share your presentation if you have?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
I will.
Okay. Hopefully, you're going to see my screen in a minute.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Let's go for that. So. Hi, everybody. Let me see if I can lift that up there. So this is the horoscope for the Jupiter ingress in Cancer, which I have set here for Greenwich. I think like most of us, we have this sense when Jupiter's coming into Cancer that there might be, for us as people, it's moon ruled, of course, Cancer, that there might be some benefits for us uh, in this shift from Gemini to Cancer. Cancer is very much about nurturing growth, looking at potential and bringing things back to fruition, if you like. So it's a very kind of healthy, productive placement really for Jupiter. And Jupiter is, of course, exalted in this sign. It's a benefic planet from benefic sign, so it's got a lot. You would think it has a lot to offer us, certainly at this time where things are feeling pretty fraught and tense. It almost feels like some lightness coming in, or something that could bring some good to us, which I think we all desperately need at the moment. So in the UK, Mark, I'm sure we'll be talking about the situation in the UK. We see that it's the ingress falls in the UK on around the descendant, which is very much a house as well of open enemies and conflict, and Mercury in Cancer, which you could say is quite offensive, on the defensive. And if we look at what Mercury and Jupiter are doing in this chart, this ingress chart, and there's only one ingress, sometimes Jupiter will retrograde back, not very often where Cancer is concerned does it retrograde back into Gemini, but it has done it a few times. I think in 1977, for example, was the last time. And this time as well, it's just going straight, storming ahead into Cancer. But what do we see in this chart? We see that the moon is in Sagittarius. That's a really expansive moon. It's a moon that's also very active. It's in a mutable sign, so it's quite restless. And it's trining Saturn and Neptune, the conjunction here. So it's kind of picking up already on the energy of the applying Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which is a whole story in itself. And I don't want to go too deep into that. It'll come in on the sidelines, if you like, but it's not the main focus. I'm sure we'll be doing a talk just on Saturn Neptune at some point. But if we look, the moon anyway is feeding into Saturn Neptune. So on a level, if there's dissent, if there's dissatisfaction, if there's sort of anger bubbling up, the people can now act on it. This is a sort of act out type of moon, really. We see that Jupiter and Mercury are both square Saturn Neptune. It's an interesting square, and I looked into this one a bit because actually this is the last of 3 squares between Jupiter Saturn. We've had 2 squares in Pisces Gemini already, which maybe explains a bit the sort of the kind of heavy vibe in a way that Saturn can bring about, where optimism is concerned. There doesn't feel like there's much room for it the last half year, certainly. And Jupiter being, of course, in Gemini, it's all about trade, etc. But anyway, it's square now. It's Jupiter and Mercury in Cancer. And I say Mercury particularly in Cancer, and Jupiter in Cancer in a way. It's self-interest, look after your own, the own family, the own tribe. And the square here to Saturn, it's the last of the 3. So there is a sense here with Jupiter in Cancer, it's a cardinal sign. Things are turning. There's a change of direction. It's hanging in the wind. And maybe, I'm sure Anne will be looking at this in a minute, that the breakdown in the relationship between Trump and Musk in a way is part of that sort of idea of things turning. We see it as well with regard to Israel and Palestine. We can see Israel has been, known to be Saturn relates to the Jewish people. Saturn is in Aries now, and there's a change in our perception of Israel from being, people who have been suffered a lot and have been victimized into being now the perpetrator. So there's all these kinds of shifts, and yeah, the moon is following Jupiter, following the lead of Jupiter. And the other big aspect in this chart, which Anne I think is going to look at, is the Mars-Uranus square. So this Jupiter ingress has got quite a lot of fanfare. It's closing down a Jupiter-Saturn cycle, the Jupiter-Saturn square, the first one since the conjunction in 2020. It's the last, coming into the last of those. And yeah, it's kind of got a lot of movement certainly from out the people, but also a lot of obstacles and a lot of difficulties. If you look at it, the ingress for Washington, then it's in the 8th house, Jupiter. It will be transiting at some point the 8th house. And what is the 8th house? It's about, the national debt. And one of the things that the breaking points in the relationship between Trump and Musk has been about this big, beautiful bill, which is all about redistribution of tax, changes to the tax system. And of course, as I said, the national debt, which according to Musk will likely rise to $2.5 trillion, a crushing debt. So we are coming into this great movement of Jupiter into Cancer, and it's just a few days afterwards we get the full moon as well in Gemini Cancer. So that's a sense of things coming to a head. It's squaring the nodes, this full moon. So the kind of feeling I had there, with the moon in Jupiter ruled, there's mutual reception, in fact, between quite a strong reception between Jupiter and the moon. So we could say people and leaders are not on the same page. I think certainly, people in Europe are definitely, for example, if we refer back to Gaza, we are, seeing a disconnect between what people want and what leaders want. So yeah, strong mutual reception there. So this is the full moon against the backdrop of the horoscope for the US. And as you can see here with the Mars there, the sun, that full moon is falling right across the first seventh house of the US chart. So yeah, the Jupiter square Saturn, just a few ideas. And we have the Jupiter side of it, which is the expansion, and so certainly the squares that have been taking place with Jupiter and Gemini. Mercury ruled, there's been an awful lot of talk about trade, and the Saturn side of it, being the square, limitations on that, holding back, not allowing free trade really. Saturn, Pisces, as well as a lot about the old heavy industries, manufacturing, mining, farming, this sort of thing. But we see a clash as well between Jupiter and Gemini, where ideas are circulating freely, and the most conservative, the rule book, the need to fact check side of Saturn. And one of the things I thought was very much about this last phase of Jupiter in Gemini is this, the big beautiful bill itself, which is 1,100 pages. And, the representatives got the text late at night before the vote. So there's a kind of obfuscation taking place there. People are not having enough time to do the Saturn side of things, i.e. to digest it properly. So yeah, it's this Jupiter in Cancer. If we look at the aspects and the full moon and all the stuff that's backing up behind it, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction being one, it does have a sort of protectionistic feel to it. It does have a sort of own needs first. Jupiter-Saturn is definitely, has been and will be for a while, all about borders. And the Saturn-Neptune conjunction being Mars-ruled, it's about holding those borders with force, using maybe the army or other, military forces to keep borders in place. But I think Jupiter-Saturn as well, what we're seeing is this sort of fight for survival. The moon Jupiter is about the stomach, and it's about basic food needs. And the whole sort of struggle within food distribution and the lack of organization of it is something that we're witnessing in the lead up to these aspects. So yeah, we've had a few squares, as I said. This is just a list of the build-up now to Saturn coming back in Pisces, where in fact in November, Jupiter steams ahead now. So things are going to go really quickly up until the station of Jupiter in November, and then it's going to retrograde in 25 degrees, 27 Cancer. It's almost trine Saturn. So we've got this kind of square meets trine, this kind of strange handover. There's a really strange kind of mix there, as just prior to Saturn revving up to finally make its move into Aries. But there's almost a trine there. There's minutes short of it in November. So yeah, we also in that ingress chart, of course, got the upcoming Jupiter-Neptune square, where there is optimism and danger of over-optimism. There's this sort of idea of things coming up from the collective, and we become aware of it through Jupiter in Cancer. It has a kind of a universal image as well. But yeah, it's also that Saturn-Neptune is in the picture, which is the contrast between form and formlessness and illusion and reality, what is real and what isn't real. And as we get more into the sort of revolution of artificial intelligence, that line becomes really blurred. So yeah, this is, I'm just going to quickly leave these charts with you if you want to look at them. This was the first Jupiter-Saturn square, which was in August, which was, just shortly before Biden addressed the nation, withdrawing from the election. And this is the second one, which was in December. So yeah, before just a few charts with Jupiter in Cancer, which because I've been kind of dipping into it. And Jupiter in Cancer, it has a quality as well, I think, to create myths and to create huge events that live on in the storytelling and in the life of the nation. So, for example, the Battle of Stalingrad, which marked a turning point in the Second World War, started and ended under Jupiter in Cancer. In fact, I think it was 2 point something million people died at that battle. So, there's not only the potential for good under Jupiter in Cancer, it can also create these humongous events like this, which live on in the psyche of the nation. And here's another one for you to look at, which involve in the same planets. Again, here we have Saturn and Neptune, which are the two big players coming into 2026. And we have the Jupiter opposition here. And this was the date in December 1989. And 1989 was an epic, of course, year with the fall of the wall and all kinds of things. But we shouldn't forget it's also the year that in the UK, water was privatized. So I think with Jupiter in Cancer, the whole issue around water and certainly, you know, profit from water, which is what has resulted from the privatization. It hasn't turned out well for the people of the UK at all. So I think this is something that's going to be come back alive under this transit. And here's the, of course, the really famous Jupiter in Cancer oppositions, almost exact here to Saturn, Neptune. Again, this sense of the cardinals being able to turn things round and move things in a different direction. And the moon here, interestingly enough, at 0 degrees Aries, which is, of course, where the Saturn-Neptune conjunction will take place. Okay, Rod, that's me finished.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Wow, fantastic. I really enjoyed. Well, any comment want to join? Because I noticed, yes, the Jupiter in Cancer, I remember the last one was 2014. And during that time, I think Israel-Palestine was something going on very, very huge. And then, of course, never forget the Russia taking over the Crimea in that time.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also definitely linked to Ukraine. I think the Aidan or the Maidan demonstrations were also Jupiter in Cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of brings out spirit in people that are quite for your own people, your own culture, your own, you know what I mean? My people, you know, my tribe, something like
my
that.
people, your people, and are you one of us, or are you from somewhere else? And that's pretty interesting. Louisa, Anna, any comment? I think it's
yes, absolutely. I mean, and we see all these issues about immigration, and that plays in what you said, Rod, and what Liz said. It is our land, not your land.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's going to play out even more than it's playing now.
I think so too, yeah.
Because I'm here, so I follow other things, because it's in the news. Yesterday, Trump decided that 12 countries, people from 12 countries cannot come in. And they have no relation to anything that's going on.
Yeah, it seems a bit random.
Like, you know, random.
Yeah.
Poor. Chad. Eritrea. Random.
So
I think the issues internally, whether in the United States or in Europe, with Jupiter in Cancer, the issues of immigration will be again and again and again in the news.
Exactly. It's like, Liz, I think recently you mentioned about, before we started, you mentioned about the, in Netherlands, the government is kind of falling apart.
Yeah, it's fallen. Yeah, it fell a similar sort of time as the whole spat between Trump and Musk kicked off. Geert Wilders withdrew his party, and it's the biggest party, but because he is far right, nobody wants to work with him. So it was an experimental parliament that we had, or experimental government. Once Geert Wilders pulled his members of parliament out, there wasn't enough to keep the government afloat. So it's fallen, and we've got now a new election coming up. I don't know, sometime in the autumn. I don't think the date has been fixed yet, maybe October or something, I heard. But so it's kind of that kind of things are turning and changing, and it's all over the place.
Yeah, and also I think mentioned about the Portugal. I just forget that Luisa is from there. And the end of last month was the election, right, in Portugal, and I think the far right gained quite well.
Well, the far right, and the issue was again immigration. So it was a preview of coming attractions, and the far right had already a strong position and became stronger, and the Socialist Party, which was either in power or the main opposition, is now relegated to third.
Wow. Yeah. It's a bit like the Tories in our the sort of by-election, wasn't there, somewhere in Scotland, and they came fourth.
Yeah.
So they were like, last across the post sort of thing.
Mark will definitely mention that later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, should we? Yeah,
also,
Mark.
just to chip in, I mean, we also had, of course, the Polish election as well, where the populist won, and also Romania recently as well. So we've had it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
But what's interesting, just one thing to say about this government under Geert Wilders, it actually made such big promises what it was going to do, and it actually, none of it materialized. It was unable to do anything, get anything off the ground. It was a complete fiasco. We've had nothing done the last year since they came in. So yeah, populists, I think, they have a lot of promises, but they're unable to deliver really when it comes down to, real results on things.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it anyway.
No, just a couple of comments is that recently the Peruvians won't need a visa to go to Japan, which surprises. And I know it has to do with this Jupiter that will be exalted. And the other thing is that these 12 countries that were banned to be in the US, the 12 is the number of the return of Jupiter.
Yeah.
And probably there will be more countries, but at least at the beginning, there are 12, which is surprising, and it is very stressful as well.
Definitely. Okay, Anna, are you ready?
Yeah, I am ready. I confess that I'm a little bit fearful about this upcoming square. Okay. Okay. So this is the square of Mars-Uranus that will be in fixed signs, accompanied by the square of Jupiter to Saturn, Neptune, and also the Sun will square the nodes. Which is something interesting. The both benefic planets, I mean Venus and Jupiter, will have an essential dignity, and the malefics will be in fire elements. And Mercury in Cancer is out of bounds. Okay, so we can see here that Mercury is in declination of 24, almost 25, and there are other parallels and contraparallels among some planets, such the Moon contraparallel to Uranus, Venus parallel Venus, yes, and some parallel Jupiter, among others. So I wanted to check this as well. So if I cast this chart of the square to the world, we can see here that Mars on the midheaven will be affecting this area, and Uranus in the midheaven will affect this area. And here Mars in the IC will affect this area, and Uranus here in this area. And these are the lines in the ascendant or descendant respectively. But we know that the world everywhere now is very shaky. So this is a reference. So I will start showing some charts in which I will highlight the square in yellow and other transits or conjunctions will be in blue. I will start with Donald Trump, who has this Mars return and square with Uranus here close to the midheaven. There are other contacts and other situations. I also highlight here the square from the Sun with the nodes to see if I impact some part of the natal chart of the leaders. So far, this is the one that is coming up very soon. For US, the square Mars-Uranus will have a T-square with the moon of US. And there are other contacts as well. Let me check this because I don't see it. Okay. This is the chart of Elon Musk, who also was born with Mercury out of bounds. So he has return of Mercury here, and Mars will create a T-square with his Neptune, Jupiter, and his Saturn. So we can see all the tension here about what is known, widely known. Putin has the square of Mars-Uranus over his Pluto and somehow with his moon. And of course, he doesn't want to create any peace because he has this Pluto here squaring the both ascendant, descendant, and there are other aspect as well with the Sun, with the nodes, aligned with the 5th and 11th house. In case of Russia, we have here the Mars is close to the Moon, Uranus here, and there are other contacts, such Pluto with Saturn and Mercury with the South Node. This is for me the most stressful chart because the square Mars-Uranus will be impacting his Zelensky Saturn, which is the ruler of the 8th. And Pluto is also getting closer to Sun and Venus. And there are other transits happening as well. This is for me the most intriguing transit. In the case of Ukraine, we have here that the square Mars will impact these 3 planets and the square here, but there are other contacts such Mercury and South Node and Pluto with Saturn as well. So I think that this tension will continue. In the case of the chart of the NATO, we can see here that Mars will be in contact with Saturn, and there are other planets going on here. And the Sun, yes, the Sun will square also the node and descendant. Netanyahu has also Mars in Leo, and the square will be over his natal Mars, and there are other contacts as well. It is like all the leaders will experience this square very, very heavily. In the chart of Israel, there will be sharp conjunction of Mars with Mars, Uranus here, and the other contacts with Venus and Uranus as well. The chart of Palestine will have the Mars in the ascendant and Uranus here with Jupiter. And other constants such the conjunction Neptune, Saturn with Mars, and well, if you use Lilith with Pluto and other things happening here. The square of the Sun here, very close to the 2nd and 8th houses. This is Mohammed bin Salman, the Prince of Saudi Arabia. We have here that Mars is with the Mars again. And a square with Uranus. I don't have the exact time, so ignore the houses. The Moon with Jupiter and the normal with the Moon, but the Moon may vary, and other contacts as well. Okay, Jupiter will be in opposition to his Neptune. The chart of Saudi Arabia has Mars here, is not in contact with these planets, it's Mars isolated, but Uranus is with Chiron. And the conjunction is also in contact with the ascendant. Xi Jinping has the same, it's his birthday, the same day of the partile square. So he will have the Mars in the 12th house and other contacts as well, such Pluto with the North Node, the return of Venus, and other transits here with the Sun and Mars. In case of China, the square will be with the vertex, Uranus here, and the contact Jupiter with Uranus and Pluto with the Moon that is already happening some time ago. The Harvard University chart, ignore houses because I don't have the time. It has the square in the Pluto, with Pluto. Uranus is with Pluto, activating against Mercury. The students, the students, who is the family of the student, who belongs to Harvard. Okay, so it's creating a T-square, and this transit will take some time, and there are other contacts as well that are in blue. But this Mars will activate again the problems in Harvard. The chart of Bill Clinton, I put this chart because Bill Clinton and I, we share the same birthday. I will receive the square in my sign again. So, but just to explore, to have some, yes, I will receive the square. That's why I'm dressed in red, by the way. And but it caught my attention because we haven't heard so lately from him, but I wanted to explore what happened. So he will have this Mars in conjunction with the Sun, Uranus here, and another planet here with his Uranus as well. The chart of Iran, has Mars here and Uranus with the Moon and other contacts as well. And the Sun, here creates with Mars. With Mars also creates a square with Mars. The chart of India will have this Mars in the 6th house and Uranus here. Although there are no planets to contact, there are other planets that are creating conjunctions in blue. And the last one, the Pakistan. This is very interesting because Mars and Uranus are here. Uranus is with the North Node, but Mars has been visiting all this bunch of planets in Leo. So it is not, although it's very a wide orb here, it will be passing through the 5th house. And then the Sun and Jupiter, it will be in contact with Mars, Uranus of the natal chart of Pakistan. So it seems to be a very shaky week, shaky square, and let's pay attention to the events that will happen next week. Okay, thank you.
Wow, thank you, Anna. I finally understand why you say you have a bit concern. It's have so many impact. As we used to say, the 0 degree of cardinal is the world axis. Now we're going to move it to like a late fixed sign. I think it's pretty interesting. And I want to add it up. Taiwan has Venus at 26 degree, Scorpio. And I think the Hamas charted chart has a sun in 25, right? Have sun in 25. I remember we talk about a lot about that. That sounds like a pretty interesting. Any comment, Liz, Mark?
Yeah, there was a few things that struck me, like for example, the conjunction between Netanyahu's Mars, for example, and the Mars of Israel. Which also I think so can see the path that he has taken the country, right, which is very martial and very it's kind of quite
Yes, I picked also those charts, leaders and countries in which are now very very sensitive to conflicts. But it really surprised me that this square will be visiting many things in the charts of these countries. Yeah, in one way or another.
Yeah, it's very striking. Yeah, I thought so.
It's very striking. Yeah, it's very striking. And also this Mercury out of bounds is also, well, is a close planet, no? But anyway, that is out of bound is creating a lot of problems with the trade, commercial, traveling, students, kids, and everything that is signified by Mercury.
It's also, I feel like a bit, things happen not in a vacuum. And I think the difference with like maybe 20 years ago and now is that we're aware of things, that as they're happening within, minutes of an event, we know about it. So we can make those connections. So it's also kind of, in a way, reinforcing that idea of a global community, that we're all, you know what I mean? We're all in it together. And it's always been like that, but it's just that we're aware of it more, maybe now. But it's really fascinating because I mean, these transits of Mars around, squaring whatever will have happened before, but it's just there's more awareness about things, you know, and I think I see that particularly in the conflict between Israel and Palestine. You know, the awareness around that has shifted incredibly, and there's that, I think the sun moon, that full moon square in that axis, it shows the disconnect between what people want and what leaders are giving them, you know, which will feed into Saturn Neptune. I also noticed in the chart you showed that Pluto's on the midheaven, coming up to the midheaven in the chart of Pakistan. So that looks set to, you know, kind of like not take a back seat, you know what I mean? It's gonna want to push itself forward on the world stage in a way, you know. It's kind of showing its power, but it's fascinating. Yeah, it was really fascinating.
Definitely.
Of Zelensky, the chart of Zelensky is that I'm very fearful.
Yeah.
Because today there was an attack from Russia to Ukraine, and I think there is a sense of revenge.
Yeah.
Well, Luisa?
Yeah, I just want to remind you that Aries is at 25 Aries. And for example, all this discussion, all this discord between Musk and Trump happened as Mars started the trine to Aries. So in the middle of all this, we have the goddess of discord, also in the same degrees. It's at 25 Aries.
Yeah.
And Cairo is also transiting there.
Yeah. So, you know, and that's just one more for the square.
Yeah, definitely.
Just you know, as if it's needed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, not only the Jupiter moving into the Cancer soon, and then the following month, in July, we will have Uranus moving into Gemini. That's what we are talking about. You know, there's a lot of gossip things in the hot air, but I think Grace will have a different take because she's going to lead us to have a little bit, you know, experience about how Uranus in Gemini going to have an impact in China. So are you ready, Grace?
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I will share my screen.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Here we are. Yes, we can see it.
Good. I will share some point about Uranus in Gemini. What will happen, or what will happen in China. And the Uranus in Gemini, Uranus is like Earth to be break, and the break is always like make a shock and suddenly awakening. Freedom in truth. The people like freedom, but also like to how to say it? I mean, in truth. Okay, on the ridiculous change and the revolution. And I think it's also like the most modern technology. It's like in this moment, the AI or robot. And Gemini is like communication, learning, take a pleasure in learning, and mobile media. I really like what Christine said, aha moment.
Eureka moment, yeah.
Okay. Yes, aha moment, eureka moment. And Gemini, on the Uranus in Gemini, it's like ridiculous change in education, language, or communication. Or we have to thinking how to make a change, or in new way, how to learning, how to speaking out our point, and how to writing or traveling, or maybe also like we need a space, a new space. Also, if we look back, Uranus in Gemini, also a lot of revolution, war, or maybe this time like a technology war. I mean, okay. Things happened in China when last time Uranus in Gemini. It's between 1942 to 1949. The second senior Japanese War and the defeat in Chinese Civil War, Shanghai Stock Exchange resumed operations. And in this chart, I just want to show Uranus in Gemini. We can see Uranus in Gemini conjunct Saturn, and there is a lot of planet in Gemini, in 10th house. And you know, in these years, in 1940s, China almost, stayed almost the whole years in war. And from here, we can see Mars in Cancer and the Pluto conjunct with Chiron. Okay. And then I will in this chart we can see Uranus now will move into Gemini on 17th July in this year. And Uranus is one of the chart ruler in China of China's chart. In China's natal chart, Uranus form Yod with the moon and Chiron. Uranus is a Pisces planet. And in the second chart, we can see Uranus, transit Uranus conjunct Venus in 4th house. And with China's moon, the moon conjunct the transit Pluto, and also sun, China's sun make a grand trail. I mean, the grand trail make the things happen very easy, or maybe like with lucky, with something with lucky. And also, it's more like an internal change, or maybe internal evolution. You know, in this moment, China with American, they make a trade war. It's more like a trade war because of make a trade war. And in China, something like, sorry, why I want to share this point? Because in this moment, it's not one or two people, Chinese people, or even a lot of Chinese people, include my friends, my clients, or my family, almost said to me, oh, why not come back to China? We are very strong. We don't need any the other support. I mean, so if we look at here, they make a grand trail. It's really like we don't need the others. We can do ourselves. We can make a big change. We can make we have a lot of innovation. I mean,
yeah.
So okay. And also, it's maybe about the youth and the AI, or maybe something like, you know, like last time I joined Christine's class about Uranus in Gemini. I was thinking about Uranus in Gemini, maybe AI or robot suddenly have some thinking, like human thinking, human beings thinking, or like human beings feeling. I think it's not really good. I mean, but we have to face to it, face to this change. Okay, and transit Uranus, Pluto, and the moon step into the China's chart Yod. Again, something like maybe like a the policy have to change or have to rebuild rechange maybe, or something out of the balance. I don't know, but I don't know, maybe. Okay, in this chart, Uranus will retrograde in Gemini in 5th house on November 8th in this year. And Uranus with Neptune and Pluto form a small triangle. I mean, the outer planet, the forming aspects forming between them. Maybe really something happened or something have to be changed on the political or how to say the psychological change. I mean psychological change on the world wide. It's not only in some area. I mean, maybe the whole area, whole world set. And also, I think about something like crisis or violent death. Yeah, and also again, war. It seems like a lot of wars. Okay. Uranus opposite Mars. It's like a breaking thought opposite innovative, and Uranus with Venus and Neptune also form a yacht. So in this until here, I mean, there's a lot of yacht in China maybe will happen. It's really like I mean, maybe China will make a big shock to us. I hope so. I mean, in the good way. I mean, in the good way. But maybe also a lot of challenge. The people have to face to the challenge. Maybe also not like the people think everything is turned to difficult. It's not really easy. And also, I'm thinking about because of you, how far can China can go. I mean, in this moment, it looks like e-car and AI or robot keep on showing to the world, but how far can go. And also about space and of course about Taiwan or make something. Okay, and the Uranus in Gemini sometimes also mental the neighbor with neighbor have some problems or make some confused. Okay. And again, Uranus will move into Gemini on April 2026 again. Uranus will stay until August 2032. Uranus and in this chart we can see Uranus conjunct Venus with China's moon, sun, and transit Pluto. Again, make the grand trail. So, and on the by wheel, we can see Aries stellium in China's 2nd house. This we have to pay attention, and opposite the 8th house, so something about the economy, resource, debt, or maybe there. And on this chart there are a lot of fair, most planet in the fair sun, and also none of planet in the Earth sun. So it looks like a lot of anger. Of course, also very achieving. Maybe they're really doing something. I mean, okay, Uranus in Gemini, this transit we can see Uranus transit Uranus will square China Saturn at least 4 times. I mean, voltage reform or fair make the people fair to change. I mean, breaking the traditional, and maybe a lot of traditional factories or handicrafts maybe have to be closed or replaced by high technology. But the question is, do the Chinese people really want to make the big change? Or can they really swipe away the old order? Of course, I speak this a little bit dangerous. Or face to big change. And again, maybe some war. I hope so. No, I hope there's no war. And transit Uranus will connect China's moon, and again, maybe they move to Mars space or culture shock, or great migration. Maybe also change the workforce. You know, Moon is rule China 6th house. So I mean, the workforce maybe will be changed, or maybe high tech in the people's daily lives, or the healthcare system suddenly be changed. You know, in China, the healthcare system really a lot of challenge. I mean, okay, I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Grace. It's very interesting because I think we rarely talk about the China side, and especially you mentioned about the few war. I know you're afraid about that. Well, we probably not miss another one. I mean, there is a potential there. The tension is building up, and we just don't know when. We just don't know when that one would be just a trigger, just snap like that. Yeah. So, well, thank you, Grace. It's pretty interesting. Any comment or any question?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, Grace. Thank you. I just noticed there's a grand air trine coming there, isn't there?
Yeah.
From Uranus. It'll trine the ascendant and the moon with Pluto there.
Yeah.
So what you said about the inner resourcefulness of the people, and that idea that that you don't need, that you can forge your own trade links with other countries, and you've got, resources there, and it's trying the sun as well.
Yeah.
In the 8th house. So it's kind of, it feels quite regenerative or something for China, and maybe, because I think it resonates a bit with Saturn Neptune China. Certainly we had Tiananmen Square under the last conjunction, because Saturn is the old ruler of the ascendant and the moon. So yeah, there's I'm just wondering like what kind of changes now Saturn Neptune will bring about, and whether with all of that other energy behind it, the trines from Uranus to Pluto, particularly to the moon, how that, it'll be interesting to see how China now develops in the coming years. It certainly stood up to Trump, I thought, in a brilliant way. I thought, oh yeah, good,
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Louisa and Anna. Okay, Anna first. Anna, yes.
No, Luisa.
No. You just raise your hand. Anyway.
Okay. No, I was thinking about the daily life customs in China, because I observe that in China that there are many things going on with the robots. They are working with the humans, creating robot rays, pets that are robots now. And there are many things going on that way. I think China is leading the change in this sense. And another point, it has nothing to do with China, is about the Uranus in Gemini, in which I observed that the war will take some weapons that are related to technology, such this late attack, the web operation to Ukraine with the drones, some few years ago in Lebanon with the Vipers. So it is like the weapon, the kind of weapons for the wars nowadays are much more smaller.
Yeah.
Gemini and multiple.
Yeah.
That's why I observe.
Yeah.
Which and humanless, some so to speak. No? So
Yeah.
there will be many strategies in that sense that I think that we will witness.
Yeah.
What else will come? We don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Euros will surprise us. Thank you.
Louisa, you comment about the Uranus before
you just said things are going to operate. You're going to be just snap. That's how Uranus operates, snap. But to reinforce Grace's, I'm in Seattle, and in May, in the middle of celebrations, etc., family graduations, and we went to a rooftop, and where we could see the harbor, and for the people there, it was shocking. There wasn't one single container unloading. So I'm sure that China knows that and is just laughing, thinking that in 3 weeks, stores will not have a single thing. Because Seattle is not as big as LA, but there was all the cranes were not working, and there was one single ship. So it was shocking for the people here suddenly to realize that there was nothing coming in.
Wow.
Thank you. There you go, Grace.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a trivial comment. It was just something when Grace was talking about the Uranus and the AI, and obviously others have picked up robotics and unfortunately military technology as well, probably advancing. But I mean, it was just a trivial thing, but it was just something on the radio today about how China's really going ahead with driverless travel, trucks and stuff like that, and lorries and stuff are all going to be driverless. They're pushing right ahead on that, probably more than any other country at the moment. So it's just another example of many that are out there of how China's kind of leading in quite a number of areas.
Yeah, definitely, because like for example, the electric car, we always focus on Tesla, but the biggest the Chinese manufacturer is already silently sneaking in Europe and UK's market. A couple of days ago, I walked out the street, I saw a car, and I said BYD. I was like, ow. Oh, they are here now. Oh my God. So, and they are quite cheap. They I think their cost is probably like half price of a Tesla. You will see soon how many people are going to buy it when they're quite trying to save more money. Okay.
It's the same with EVs. I was reading about how the Chinese are lapping the Americans in Latin America, and like all these countries are now agreeing to have manufacturing companies in Brazil, and they're all going for Chinese because they're so reasonably cheap and good quality.
Definitely. So should I invite Mark? Mark, I have your slides here, but do you need me to do that, or you just want to try your first?
I'll try my luck. You never know. You never know. It might actually
you
work
never know.
Once.
You should be fine.
I'm becoming a bit of a reputation for this.
It's a Zoom. It's a Zoom. Come on, it's a Zoom.
Let's just go for it. You never know. Stars might be aligning right today. Let's see. Where is it?
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we have your slides. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We see no. I think we see your screen. We see you
Are you seeing my slides? Okay, I'm not seeing them.
No, we are not seeing slides. No, we are not seeing slides. I think we only see your BBC news.
Okay, where am I going? Oh yeah, it's on here, but I need to get it out. Give me a minute. Anybody see that?
Not yet.
It's showing for me.
Okay. Yeah, it's showing for you.
Yeah, obviously not for you, but that's no use. Right, let me try again. I'll just go to the. I can't see my desk. What's the trouble with this? I can't see the desktop on these PCs. Give me a moment. Let's try and find
Don't worry.
the desktop. Right, see if this does anything. Yeah? Well, my screen sharing is paused.
Nope.
It says I've got a message up saying it's paused.
Post. I didn't post you.
I don't know why it's paused then.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
has
should I?
paused.
Okay, let me share your slides from here then. Should we?
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really is.
Don't
Yeah.
worry, don't worry.
Okay.
And give me indications they turn in the page, all right?
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worry.
Give me a moment. I've got my notes here. Just give me a moment to refer to them.
Sure.
Okay, so I mean, it's impressive how, you know, Anna and Liz were obviously giving us a very, very interesting kind of global perspective, really, you could say, cyclical perspective. I think I'm a bit more kind of a mole type perspective and just the UK perspective here. But with that in mind, obviously here in the UK, the subject for quite some time politically has been the rise of the Reform UK party under Nigel Farage. Like it or not, it's a story that's just keep running and running. And yeah, they've had a lot of success. I mean, just to say a little bit about Nigel Farage before I go on to do the next slide. I mean, he's been a figure in British politics for quite some time, really going on before the Brexit vote. He was probably one of the key figures that founded the UK Independence Party, as it was at that time, which was a major party in kind of moving the UK towards getting the Conservatives to concede a referendum after some electoral success for the UKIP. They were eating into the Conservatives' support. And so they basically, Cameron kind of folded and decided to the referendum, and the rest is history. Brexit and all the rest of it, where that took us. Actually, Farage actually resigned from the UK Independence Party after that and didn't have any more involvement in it, but then founded a new party in 2018, the Brexit Party, which was, well, kind of after Brexit, but it was kind of like trying to, is from their perspective, holding the Conservatives' feet to the fire kind of thing, just so that they were still being tough on immigration and all the rest of it. They also led on issues during COVID. They were very much on anti-lockdown issues and stuff like that. And their policies have been things like, well, a freeze on unnecessary immigration, whatever that happens to be, wherever you define that's probably focusing on just narrow visas in certain occupations, but I presume they mean. I mean, other issues they've kind of led on. Let me think of here. Let's see what I've got down. Yeah, I mean, free market, very free market party, political focus, uh, and very anti environmental. A lot of environmental policies that were brought in. So there's the one to scrap net zero and go back on a lot of the net zero policies that have been implemented by both Conservative and Labour governments. And they also got involved in the gender debate and basically banning transgender ideology in schools was on their agenda at the last general election. So, as I suppose you might wrap it all up, as someone on that political perspective might see it as an anti-woke kind of party, I suppose you might say, or a rabid right-wing party, you might say from the other point of view. It depends how you look at it, I suppose. Anyway, yeah, I just want to look at Farage's chart just briefly. Obviously, this is this is actually the free. Is there a previous slide with this chart? Just this one?
Nope,
No?
just this one.
I must have forgotten to put it up. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's in there
Or
anyway.
this one. Are you talking about this one?
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's very interesting he's got Pluto on the ascendant, because he has had such a powerful influence, you know, which is really quite bizarre at times because he was never even elected as an MP until last year, although he was a member of the European Parliament, a very vocal anti-EU kind of member of the European Parliament for many years, which was kind of his stage. But he's got that kind of Pluto going on there, a dynamic Aries sun as well. And I think always quite interesting is in a Sagittarian moon. So it's a very quite a fiery chart, as would you maybe expect. But he's the theme I always like to go on about. My theme is that I think series is basically tied into a lot of right-wing populism. Uh, so that's something, but not entirely just populism. There's other sides of it. It can be progressive politics. It's more embracing too. But he's got this series conjunction to the South Node, which I think is quite interesting because series comes up a lot in these kind of charts around these kind of parties. I've noticed, and their electoral successes as well seems to tie into it quite often. And of course, the Gemini midheaven, so quite a lot of mutability there as well going on, and a lot of mutability in the chart. And he has been certainly flexible in terms of reforming the party and changing policies as need. I mean, the latest policy they've been putting out was what you might call a nativist policy, saying that they want to stop the benefit cap on 2 children so that people with children get more benefits. So this is quite a blatant attempt to kind of get more support that way. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so actually, is there another
shall
one
I go?
before
that? Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the members of my association, Nicholas Greer, who's done a few talks on this, I remember he once did a talk where he said he'd researched every British Prime Minister since Dot and looked at them all against the 1801 chart to see whether they had potential to actually become a UK Prime Minister or what kind of Prime Ministership they might bring, basically, to give the flavour of it. I mean, I remember him talking about Boris Johnson and pretty much predicting he'd be a complete disaster based on his chart, synastry with the 1801 chart. I mean, if we look at Nigel Farage, basically, I mean, he's got his natal sun is on the north node of the 1801 chart, so that's notable. But also his natal Saturn is on the Pluto of the 1801 chart, and he is certainly stirring up quite. I mean, it's interesting. Quite a lot of his opponents have described the policies of the Reform Party as poison, toxic. Those kind of words come up quite a lot in the political opposition's comments about them. He's also got, as he has in his own natal chart, I didn't mention that earlier, he's got a Mars square to his nodal axis natally, but his Mars also squares the UK nodal axis, which I think we've seen in kind of, again, picking up the Pluto on the ascendant theme, the dramatic effect he's managed to have, which is sometimes seems a bit disproportionate to who he's been. But there you go. And another theme, which is very interesting, I think, is he's got almost an exact Neptune conjunction to the UK Neptune. And that's this whole thing about this populism, that they have all the answers, just vote for them and they'll solve everything. They'll deal with all the immigration problems, they'll deal with all the economic difficulties. And a lot of people are really just looking for some kind I think basically quite sick of the not the conservative, the conventional political answers, are looking for some kind of magic pot at the end of the rainbow, I think, and Reform are obviously offering it, not with a lot of detail, it has to be said, at the moment. And maybe as we go to a general election, then we'll be put under more scrutiny and how they possibly hope to deliver some of these things in a time of financial or real austerity, for the country. So I think that's interesting. He's also got his natal Neptune square the UK Venus as well, which, as you remember in the UK chart, is Libra rising, so that's the ascendant ruler. So he's certainly a Marmite figure. I mean, there are people who quite obviously detest him and everything he stands for, but he does obviously have his base, you might say. And I suppose, and his part of fortune is also on the UK series as well. So I just noticed that as well. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, he's certainly, I mean, I've seen charts, less promising charts for people. I mean, there's been talk in the UK about whether he could become prime minister. It seems a bit premature at this point. We're still like 3, 4 years away from a general election. And, the Reform UK bandwagon could collapse long before that. But, it's certainly not implausible just by his natal chart and the UK chart. He's got enough connections there, I think. Just move on, I think. Yeah, and you can see, like, obviously the big breakthrough, I suppose. They've had breakthrough in the general election. Obviously, they won 5 seats, but nothing compared to the 15% of the popular vote that they got. They would have got about 80 seats if they under a PR system like they have in Europe. So, but it's a very small base, and even one of them's left now and fallen out with the party anyway. But the local government election results were a stunning success for them. Basically, they won about, I think it was something like, yeah, in fact, 60% of all the available seats they cleaned up. And they have to be aware that these elections are a little bit odd because they weren't including a lot of metropolitan areas like London, Birmingham, Manchester. All the metropolitan areas weren't included, but they did very, very well in that election, obviously, and it's kind of brought them to even more to the fore since the general election, I think, to the point where they're leading they and Labour are they've been leading Labour and leading the Conservatives have kind of been I don't know, put into political oblivion at the moment unless they pick up. They're facing political extinction under the current system anyway. Maybe not in a PR system. So yeah, I mean he's got the local government. Obviously, the day of the election, the sun was obviously trying his natal sun. Where's that gone? Oh, that's not right. No, it was a Chinese ascendant. Sorry, it was Chinese ascendant. The moon was conjunct at the close of poles on Farage's north node, and close of pole descendant was conjunct his Venus. So it was obviously a good day out for that party. I've tried to I haven't had enough time to do this kind of research. I'll need to do more on it, I think, to kind of reach any definitive conclusions. But there's basically two potential charts for the party. There's one based on the so-called Brexit Party, which was founded in 2018 by Farage and some others, although he actually eventually stepped down as the leader and came back again last year before the general election. So there's a Brexit Party chart, and there's also another chart I quite like, which is when they reformed the name of the party and reconstituted it as Reform UK, which was 2021, beginning of 2021 with the Electoral Commission. So if we go on, I'll have a look at these charts, a couple of these charts. So that's the Brexit chart. That's from 2018. It's not timed, so don't get too excited about ascendants or anything like that, or midheavens in this one. But we have got something picking up the mutability of Farage himself, the moon and Gemini, obviously, in the chart, and obviously the Sagittarian sun as well. So it's a very mutable chart, again, picking up maybe themes that are in Farage's own chart, actually. But I actually I've tended to run more with the other chart, which is the 2021 chart, which is a Reform UK chart, although Wikipedia just gives the 2018 date. But it does seem that they had to reconstitute themselves on a new basis. And it's virtually the same logo, the different name stuck on the front, as you can see. Different kind of chart, though, obviously very Capricornian, this one. And it seems quite appropriate, really, for this party, I think, because obviously they are like, I wouldn't say they're necessarily everything is trying to turn the clock back. In some ways, they're quite radical in the way maybe Margaret Thatcher was radical, but in a conservative kind of way, a conservative radicalism, which is maybe something Capricornian. I don't know. There's also an Aquarian aspect too, though. The Saturn's in Aquarius as is Jupiter in that chart. So, and again, we've got the nodes in the mutability, picking up the mutability there too. So, yeah, I think this chart's quite interesting. Not too far from the UK sun, the sun of the chart either. In the 1801 chart. So that's quite interesting. I actually haven't compared this to the UK chart, but it's quite interesting. So I just looked at it in terms of a couple of elections that have happened. I haven't actually looked at the Hamilton by-election because that wasn't a stunning success for them, but it was a good result for them still. So it's just the next charts really, Rod.
Is this one?
Yeah. So I put this up for my favorite subject again. The series connection. See, as you'll see, series was on the sun at the time of the UK general election on the Reform Party chart, sun. So I just think that's just really interesting how that keeps reoccurring so many times. It occurs also in the local government chart as well. Saturn was obviously the Saturn was on there where Neptune as well, which was interesting. And yeah, that's probably one of the main things. Obviously, the moon in Cancer at the time of this is a close of poll chart, by the way, just to say 10 o'clock. So it's timed the chart for the elections time from the close of poll. Just when it becomes a reality, I suppose you could say. And yeah, so that was just that really. As I say, it's my favorite hobby horse, obviously, going on about that. And then the next one was the local elections, I think. Yeah. So this was interesting because if I recall correctly, yeah, this was again interesting because we had Ceres at the transiting at the time on the nodal axis of the chart. So the actual transiting nodes were actually on Ceres at the time of the chart. Also, there's the chart's got obviously a kind of a broad Mars-Pluto opposition. And again, that kind of ties quite well in for Farage because he's got all this Aries, he's got Mars square his nodal axis, he's got Pluto on his ascendant. So actually, I think he taps in quite well to this kind of energy that would be seen as quite malefic generally. But I mean, it seems to be something he can tap into. I think in terms of his party's chart, or being able to manifest that. And yeah, Pluto Pluto on the chart on the Reform Party Jupiter at the time of that election. So I haven't projected much ahead. I mean, we're obviously 3 years ahead from at least to a general election, so there's a lot of water to go yet before we get there. But yeah, they certainly do seem. I mean, in Scotland, we had the result of the by-election last night, and although they came third, they were very close to winning it. They were only about 1,500 votes from winning the by-election. So Labour won it, and then the SNP were second, and they were third. But all the three parties didn't have much between them. So considering they have no history in Scotland, and we always used to joke about the Conservatives that there were less Conservative MPs in Scotland than there were pandas in the Edinburgh Zoo, but it seems that Reform are able to appeal to a wider spectrum of the population than the Conservatives were in Scotland. The Conservatives have always been toxic in Scotland ever since Margaret Thatcher's time, so they've never really managed to become vastly popular, although they were the main opposition in the Scottish Parliament. What's going to be very interesting is next year is the Scottish Parliament elections and the Senate elections in Wales, and they'll probably do even better in Wales, but in Scotland they'll probably be the opposition, and we'll see how it happens. I know you're scowling there, Liz, but I don't know. They're doing quite well in the polls anyway. If it continues the way it's going, I'm not saying they're going to win the Senate, but I think they could make a real nuisance of themselves anyway. That's for sure. So yeah, so I mean, I think if we're on track. I mean, if things were to continue, we might be looking at a Reform Conservative coalition government at the next election. But who knows? I mean, Labour might recover their fortunes, and they've been through a really bad patch with some of the benefit changes that they introduced. I mean, a lot of their policies I think are really good, but like employment law changes, and they're at the first government to address housing policy for decades in Britain. But I think some of their benefit changes have really lost them a lot of popular support. So they're now reeling back very quickly, trying to reverse some of those policies on winter fuel payments and stuff that with pensioners, it was highly unpopular. So we shall see what we shall see. But I'll be taking a better look at the Reform Party chart and maybe the Brexit chart, studying that a bit more detail too, to see which is tracking out better. So far, I quite like the 2021 chart though.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, I never checked his chart before, and when you showed that his chart compared with the 1801 chart, I was like, ouch, that is a really, really match. And also, I think it's quite interesting because when you mentioned about a 2021 chart, and you can see that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and that was a beginning point. I don't want to say that's the beginning point, but if that Reform Party, and now is 2025, and we have Jupiter-Saturn square, and that is a developing, and then the one that they can really, but I think the environment, the whole world environment, that kind of push it toward to even more right. I don't want to say far right, but even more right, even more conservative, even more xenophobic things are kind of, is the wing.
I think a lot of voters are just disillusioned across the whole continent, really. Well, America too. So they're just looking for any answers that might be anybody offering them magic, the rabbit out of the magic hat, basically. I also looked up in terms of the 22. I don't have time to put it up. The 2027, no, the 1927 chart,
Mm-hmm.
and that ties in well for his natal chart. Particularly, it's got Sagittarius rising. It's got an Aries sun, so it actually ties quite well into his chart
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, Lisa, you want to comment? You mute.
I just
Yeah, yeah.
unmuted myself.
Yeah.
Just to mention, Marker, that there was, before we had Reform UK and all of this stuff, there was, of course, the Referendum Party, which was formed on the year of Farage's Saturn return. It was the Referendum Party that started the whole momentum around, this sort of whole
In the 90s, early 90s,
in
yeah.
1994, exactly. It's got the referendum chart has Saturn in Pisces, early Pisces. So I think
I need to look at that.
it would have been Farage's Saturn return. But yeah, I think what he misses with the UK chart, I don't think he has. I mean, even though he smokes and he drinks and he tries to come across as a bit of a lad, I don't think he has, the UK has Moon in Cancer. And for me, he misses a certain connect to people. I don't know. Plus, I do honestly think as well, the Uranus-Pluto conjunction straddling the ascendant like that, he's going to be a difficult person to work with because he's the embodiment of
we just had the
energy
treasurer
of the 60s, right? I mean, he is it personified, that historical period of upheaval and things. He embodies it, and his sun, on the North Node, square in the UK sun. He really wants to take the UK in a direction that he wants it to go in, and he's really kind of quite outspoken and forceful. And his energy is not very Libran, which is our ascendant. I think he'll appeal to certain unrest, certain type of people in the UK, but I've got my doubts whether he could get enough people on his side to pull off, a really big election win. Personally, and never say.
I remember all this stuff way back when I was younger in the 80s about the Liberal SDP alliance and how the media got so caught up and how they were going to win the election and all the rest of it, and all they ended up doing was really just splitting the vote with the Labour Party. So and this is what Reform might end up doing, is the vote on the right might end up splitting.
That is a point. It would certainly pinch a lot of votes from both Labour and the Conservatives. But then I think it would be more interesting in the UK if we had a bit more diversity and we could get a bit away from the two-party system anyway, so that there would be more like, in the Netherlands, it's ridiculous. I think the last election, there were like 30 odd parties taking part. So then it becomes very splintered, and you've always got a coalition here. We never have like, one party, ruling the roost. But there's something to be said for that, because then you have to have a proper dialogue with each other, and it becomes more democratic in a way.
No, I think you've got a point about it not being such a strong connection. I mean, David Cameron, for example, had all that, and so did even Johnson to some extent with the Libra Rising, had that connection,
something. But there's nothing really there, I mean, he seems
That's
like
good.
like a voice
Keep
crying.
Keep the arguments coming in. We want to hear more about how he's not going to become Prime Minister.
He's not.
Yeah.
I said it.
I know. When you mentioned about this, it was like no. Louisa, any comment? And want to join any comment?
Sure. I mean, I was struck by the Reform Party chart because exactly what you said. I mean, the conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. And now we are, as you rightly said, at the moment of decisions, at the moment of the square. And he plays very well. I thought it was beautiful how all your presentations connect, because the issue of Jupiter in Cancer, our land will come up. I was also very struck about his Neptune being on the UK's Neptune, because he can show up, maybe not the lad next door, the person you want to have a beer with, but he can show up as the savior, because that's the archetype of Neptune. I will save you. So if he brings that archetype into the mix, he might have some resonance.
Yeah.
That's
obviously has got resonance, but it's whether he can, as Liz was saying, whether it can go far enough to. There's a lot of time to go. I mean, I just hope Labour managed to turn around things around a bit, because I think it's a bit.
Maybe not. Maybe he'll self-explode.
But he does have that potential, doesn't he, with that Uranus-Pluto on the ascendant to shake things up.
Yeah,
there could be a massive split in the party. There could be a massive. I mean, the problem is it's a one-man show pretty much. It's
At this
he controls the constitution. He set it up and he's running it, and it's basically his private limited company. It's not really a normal political party where you have everybody able. I mean, there is a branch system now, but they don't really have the participation that all the other parties have. It's very much as I think. So the treasurer just resigned today over comments about Muslim burqas,
wasn't it? It was about the burqa, ban the burqa. Which is also not true. I mean, she mentioned, I think a lot of countries, they just have it in public, like libraries, public places and stuff like that, where there's, but
well, when Elon Musk going to form the third party in United States, I think he can have a little bit of exchange with Nigel Farage, and to see how to hold everything together by himself.
I never mentioned how Farage loves Trump. Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. But it's a really, really interesting presentation, and I would say I really enjoyed it. At least you keep my interest to look Nigel Farage's face for another 30 minutes. I never done that before. Okay, thanks everyone. I mean, it's a fascinating session again. Thanks Liz, and thank you Anna, Grace, Mark, and also Louisa, connect from Seattle. I really hope you enjoy your family holiday and send our love to everyone there. Okay, and thanks everyone. I think today we missed Julie, Leanne, and Maria and Nando. They are a little bit busy. It's very, very busy at this moment. Well, so next month we decide to put our Mundane Astrology around. I think is the I think if I'm right is 11th of July. All right, we will come back 11th of July because during that I will have a little bit traveling, and we will see. Okay, so thanks everyone, and see you next month. Bye bye.
Thanks everybody.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much.